Okay. Well, the one that stuck out to me that was most obvious in this eday folder. There's a lot of good information in here. I'll tell you where I kind of came into all of that and what I've heard and seen, and I'm not really taking a side on it. As I'm all for the truth, and I at the end of the day, I think that no matter what happens, the intentions of what you and George have are to uncover the truth, and that you'll, one way or the other, we're going to get there. Okay?
Exactly right.
So,
thank you for acknowledging.
Yeah, I mean, because whether it's, and let me just say, whether there's a misunderstanding or confusion or intention, whatever it is, I think that I've followed George since probably day 100 that he's been going on this series. And while I haven't caught every single video, I've read additional materials and articles, and I've shown his videos to other people, and it seems extremely credible, and I've gone and done my own research, and all of this stuff is out there in the public. It's just not on the mainstream. So I think for a lot of people, it's kind of taken a life of its own, right?
Yeah.
And I will tell you that I was a Bernie Sanders supporter. I phone banked, I canvassed for him, I donated to his campaign over 80 times, and all of the people that he told me to, send money to. And I have to say that, there was a moment when the first move of the DNC leaks came out. I want to say Guccifer, but more so the WikiLeaks, that all of a sudden the online community, it took a life of its own, right? And there was a quote fake news out there, but let me just say it got sorted out really fast. Yeah. And people said, no, this is where this is this, but that's neither here nor there now. I just see the same kind of, I don't want to call it hysteria, but I see that same level of people wanting justice. And I think that's a really good thing, but we also have to understand that these things take time, and it's not going to be swift. It's going to take several steps, and people who have to, use their levers of power to make action happen. And I think you're starting to see that, though, with the mainstream press distancing themselves from Hillary Clinton because they know that something's coming. They don't do that unless they're given orders to do so. So anyway, it's an accumulative effect, and it's like a movement. You have the movement, but then you have the actual mechanisms of power that have to be adjusted. So anyway, that's my own take on it.
Yeah. Well, sure. Well, why don't you tell me a little bit about some of the research that you've done? So basically, when we release this information, and this is what I'm trying to get to. I see it doesn't make sense to me that this hacker Defango is so aggressive in pursuing me, and now they're talking about doxing me and doing whatever they're going to do there on 4chan, unless he's in some way trying to discredit us or eliminate this information or prevent it from being brought to light, which I do believe is what they're trying to do. So, in other words, when we released this information, it was certainly new to you, right?
Right. It was new to me, and I had looked through the Guccifer files before, but I didn't see some of this other stuff there.
Okay. Very good. Good to know. Okay. What would you like to tell me about it?
So in this eday folder, I know a lot of people have been focusing on the files from Mike, which I think is important. But in terms of there's a document in the eday folder that is interesting to me, and I haven't really explored it yet, except for doing some research online. And one of those documents is called Van Bellwether numbers. Okay.
I see it there. It's an Excel document.
Yeah. What was most interesting about that to me is if you go online and look at Bellwether, there are a number of articles, including one on NPR in particular, that talk about Bellwether history in U.S. elections. And one of the counties that they focus on, or one of the areas of the country that they focus on, is this area called Virgo County, who have voted for the winning candidate in every presidential election except for two, 30 out of 32 elections, and they haven't missed in 60 years. No other place in America comes close. Okay, so the bellwether counties, there are only 5 or 6 of them in the entire country. And NPR did a story on them. They do these regular stories you hear about, like New Hampshire and the first area, first city or precinct to vote, and the history behind it, and it's kind of all Americana and all that. Okay.
Right.
The point about this is that I went and actually pulled the votes for the counties themselves and found that in the Republican primary, Trump won all of them, these 5. Bellwether counties, and then he won all of them in the general.
Okay.
Bernie Sanders won all but 3, and 2 of them were in Arkansas.
Okay.
But more importantly, when I was looking at this document called Bellwether, I was like, well, this is really interesting. Mm-hmm. All of the states and cities listed are some of the largest markets, the largest cities in the country. And those cities where they're located line up perfectly with HIG Capital. Now, you're going to have to follow me on this. HIG Capital is the company that owns Hart InterCivic and Dominion voting machines.
Okay.
Okay. You can look up HIG Capital, and I don't know if they've changed but last year's website had their CEOs, who they are, what their investments. I mean, we're talking about the Carlyle Group, Blackstone.
Boy.
HIG Capital owns these 2 companies and all their subsidiaries. And HIG Capital, because of WikiLeaks and the Guccifer leaks, is listed on as a donor of the Clinton Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
In all of these,
because of WikiLeaks, we see that. Okay.
Yeah. So what's most interesting to me is that if you look at this list of Van Bellwether numbers,
right,
and all of the cities that are listed here, the majority of which Hillary Clinton won in the primary, it would be very interesting to me to know what those phone numbers mean. Because in column A is all these numbers. I think there are 50 or 52 of them. And, they list them out. They break them out by state, and they break them out by city, and these are all the largest cities.
Yeah, I see 51 numbers for cities like New York, Philadelphia, Portland, Dallas, Salt Lake City, Seattle, Milwaukee, Los Angeles. Right, and the idea that this is called Bellwether, with the historical significance of what that means is I'm not saying it is smoking gun, but it's a clue. Because that choice of words is kind of interesting as to why they would call that document Bellwether. The other part, and again, these things are stuff that just require additional information. But there is another document in this, and I have to find it again. But when I do, I'm going to send it to you. It's not that difficult. It's called Untitled, and I found it when I was looking for something else. But this Untitled document in this drive is from a race in Boston between a Republican and Democratic candidate from, I think, 2010. Now, why it's significant is this. In the document, it shows what the registrations are. It shows what the expected turnout is. And then it shows hour by hour the reported results of voting on the day of voting. Yeah, general election.
In a race for a House seat. I think it's for a race for a House seat. Now, this was 2010, and when we go to vote, right? We don't learn about the results until the polls close, right? And then they start releasing. They have the exit polling. They give you the exit polling data before they give you the final tally data. But they never tell you throughout the day anything about the voting results because everybody has to wait till the vote's closed. Well, here in plain sight is a document that shows the tallies of votes for candidates throughout the day, hour by hour, precinct by precinct, in the Boston area.
What do you think
why that is?
Yeah.
Well, if I'm going to hack an election, and I see that one candidate is surging ahead of another one, as in real time, I have access to that data. Not only the exit polling data, I have access to the actual
voting booth data.
Yes, voting booth data that's been tabulated on the machines. Now, what I want to share this with you because I think you're from Los Angeles, or are you in New York?
Well, I'm in New York. I have lived in Los Angeles, but I no longer do.
Okay. I participated heavily in the California primary 2 weeks leading up to June 7th. I also spent an enormous amount of time afterwards doing analysis and talking with people, fellow burners, who were working at the polling place the ballot counting place down in Norwalk for Los Angeles County. And they gave me contacts within that of the voting, the people that are basically hired by the city to oversee the election.
Right.
And it's kind of like what George said, or I think you may have said, that the majority of people are not involved in this. They're not nefarious in their intentions in any way. In fact, many of them, in the conversations that I had with two other
individuals, no idea.
They have no idea what
operation. Yeah.
Right. They're just trying to do their job. They actually believe in democracy. They are participating in it.
Right.
So what one of these gentlemen told me is that this myth about, well, he didn't say it, but I surmised from it. He was telling me, like, how do the votes get tallied in the machines on election night? I mean, are you guys getting them in and putting them through the machines as you get them in? And he says, well, they cannot come in any time before the polls close. Then they start coming in, and they come in randomly from all over to these central areas where they're going to put them in these machines. So the notion that, or the narrative that the media spun about the early vote for Hillary Clinton, in terms of her having these big leads at the beginning, is a false narrative that can easily be shot down with one fact, and that is that the majority of the votes they load up and put into those machines come from random places all over the county. They do not put early ballots in. They don't put, in fact, all of that has a cutoff date at a certain point, whereby the early votes can actually be checked, right? I mean, you could actually check early votes, but you can't count them. You can't put them in the machines. And those votes, after a certain day, get reserved for after election day to do additional counting if they want to put it through the machines. But more importantly about this, the point is, Jason, is that they're putting in the votes that are cast on election day first through those machines, and it's random. So the idea that Hillary Clinton would have a lead of, let's just say, actually, I would tell you that you will find, if you go back and look at all these major cities, the lead that she gets on election day is almost a 60-40 split every single time.
What do you think that indicates? They're manipulating the voting machines?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Not the voting machines that the voters themselves are voting in, although I wouldn't put it past them, but the central tabulators, right?
I see.
The ones where, right, because you're not feeding in that data from the polling. I mean, you're not taking, they have to have the physical ballots.
So how the hell did she lose if she can control the machines?
Here's the part where it gets interesting.
Okay.
So in a primary where you have closed primaries,
right?
Closed primaries, all it means is I know what my registrations are. I know exactly how many people are going to vote approximately on election day in the Democratic primary. I don't have any independents. Everybody whose registration has changed, I already know who that is. So all I have to do is calibrate my central tabulators to that number and then fractionalize those votes, deleting them, flipping them,
or
reducing
fractionalizing. Yes.
You know about this through Bev Harris, right?
Yeah, I've seen her, I think, on Alex Jones.
Yeah. And so what happens is you can control it. But when you look at open primaries, and this is not, California was a semi-open primary, right? I mean, because anybody could vote, but if you weren't on the registration, or if you were an independent, you get an NPP or some other kind of ballot that they put aside, right?
Huh?
But here's the thing: if you look at Indiana, if you look at Oklahoma, if you look at West Virginia, if you look at even Michigan, what happened was Hillary Clinton had a massive lead at the beginning of counting. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden it started to shift over to Sanders. And what that means is that he overcame the fraud because the turnout was so high. Right. And Michigan was really the first sign that they got panicked, because they realized that they were trying to, by suppressing him, they thought that they could keep the turnout down, showing Trump and elevating her over Sanders and smearing him. But it's more of an optics thing. So on election day, what happened was the turnout was so high and the support for Trump was so great, there was no amount of hacking, rigging, ballot stuffing, whatever they did, that the turnout overcame the rigging of the election. Right. And again, I go back to, if you look at Florida, if you look at North Carolina, if you look at Ohio, the early returns, Hillary Clinton is ahead. She's ahead by 8 points, 5 points, 6 points, 10 points, and then those margins start to close. And they give you these narratives about like white rural America and cities, and I'll give you two examples that really, this is metadata that's out there. You can look at it. If you look at March 3rd primaries last year for the Democrats, right, and you look at Oklahoma, and then you look at northern Texas that borders, those counties that voted for Sanders overwhelmingly by 10, 15 points, when you cross the border of Texas, they switched to Hillary Clinton by 20 to 40%.
So you think that's obvious manipulation?
Oh, I mean, the whole idea is that, this one's an open one, this one's a closed one, but Democrats are not, it's like saying I'm a Texan and I vote this way because of Texas, but I'm an Oklahoman and I vote this way because I'm in Oklahoma, even though my neighbor is right across the street and he just happens to be on the other side of the state line. Right. That's essentially what you're saying, but even more pronounced, and this is probably the biggest significant evidence of all of it, if you just want to look at it from a course of events. Right. There was an Ohio debate that was done. I think it was on March 13th. I could be wrong about that date. March 10th or March 13th. There was an Ohio debate between Sanders and Clinton. It was town hall style. Okay, and that was her famous or infamous moment where she said, "We're going to put coal miners out of jobs." I mean, I'm not quoting it exactly. But, it was taken and it was looped and, quote, they said it was out of context, whatever. It doesn't matter. It was said, and that was the narrative that was spun, right? Yeah. That she's going to put these people out of their jobs. All right. She goes from, after New York, she goes on to sweep 5 other states, roughly, yeah. Pennsylvania being one of them, right? Okay. Yeah. There's 2 big problems with Pennsylvania and her winning it because of West Virginia. Coal miners. If you recall, West Virginia is all about coal miner country. She had a horrible day with the press because there were people outside protesting her visit there. There was the guy basically sitting across the table telling her, "Look, you're telling me you don't care about me. My job is my family." And she's like trying to be, sympathetic to it, but it's not working. So then they said, okay, Sanders is going to win, right? Odds are Sanders is going to win this, but it doesn't mean anything. He wins every single county. If you go to northern West Virginia and you look at all the counties there that border Pennsylvania, right. Okay, here's the interesting thing. Go on any U.S. geological site or historic site to find out where coal country is. Coal country is not exclusive to West Virginia. In fact, it bleeds, and not just a little bit, bleeds massively over into southwest Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. And again, if you look at the timeline of events, she said this in March. Pennsylvania didn't vote till the end of April. Mm-hmm. West Virginia doesn't vote till May. Sanders wins by a landslide in West Virginia.
Right.
And all of the counties that border the southeast corner of Pennsylvania are in Cole County. There are 20 to 40% swings to Clinton on the other side of that border. And it's kind of like you piece all of this together, the fundraising. I kind of go into this thing about how people vote with their feet, time, and money. People go to concerts. People go line up for Black Friday and shopping. People go to amusement parks, sporting events, paying money, right, to get something, an experience. And all of these people lined up by the millions, let's just say thousands per city, to go see Sanders speak.
Yeah, Hillary was talking like the PTA committee or something. It was like 10 people.
Yeah, the argument that was spun was crowd size doesn't mean anything. Her support. There's even articles out there that say her supporters are afraid to come out. Right. Yeah. That you couldn't see them anywhere. You couldn't see the lawn signs anywhere because of the Bernie Bros or the Bernie Bros were online. But it was like you look at Trump's crowds and they're massive. Massive. And they hid those from view. They just they always focus. They frame it just on the center of the candidate and the people standing behind him. It's an all staged event. But when you go online and you look at the people at the events taking pictures, posting on Instagram or posting on Twitter, you can go back and look this all up. I'm sure it's searchable. You can see what the crowd sizes actually were. So you have to believe that people who are waiting in line 4 to 8 hours to get into an event, who are going to sit and listen to a grumpy old 74-year-old man, who are going to phone bank canvas for him, donate to his campaign, are just somehow at the last minute going to go, I'm not going to vote for him.
Right. It's absurd.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, so you're a professional data analyst, right? And so what does that mean? Like, who do you work with? This is what you do for a living, is look at these kind of numbers and.
Yeah, so my career background is, I'm actually in your field. I produce independent films. I've done 5 of those over the last 10 years. I came out to LA 17 years ago for acting, and then I got into producing relatively quick. But my second job out here started in 2005 at what is now the 5th largest bank in the world. I won't name what it is only because of the information. I just don't want it to get out there. But it's here in LA, and I've worked with him for 11 years. I'm in my 12th year. I started out as a tech support person, just basically because when I was in college at Georgia State University, I'm from the South, and I went to school. I had 2 Georgia Tech students, both who were CIS majors, who lived with me, taught me how to build a PC from ground up and networked all our computers. And so basically I had an aptitude for it.
Right. And
the way my mind works is just very logical. It's 1 + 1. And then you just start looking at all, kind of like, I don't want to say I'm like George. George is really brilliant. He's got
amazing. He's amazing.
But my mind can follow it and connect it, and it retains it, and then it saves it for that other part to go. Because I knew that they were going to have to rig the election for Hillary Clinton in order for her to win it, which is when I saw Obama go out there, Warren go out there, almost immediately after the 7th, I go, this is called damage control. Because they know WikiLeaks is coming. They know that Comey is going to have to make, or Loretta Lynch, whatever the two, there's going to be a decision that's going to have to be made. And they're just trying to get as many people as possible away from Trump. And that was the whole purpose of the pussy grabbing video. Right. And even with that, it still didn't work. They had a woman on CNN. This was like a couple of weeks ago in an interview. They wanted to do this, beat on, what are the Trump voters really thinking now that it's 100 days in and all that shit. Right. And they go up to a woman, a decent human being, who basically said, they asked her point blank, how could you vote for this man when he said such horrible things? And she is why I believe in America. She said, I thought about it, and it did offend me. But then I thought about my business and the people who work for me, and I had to put my own personal feelings aside for what was best for them. And that told me everything about this election, is that she had no credibility. And here's the bottom line. It matters nothing what kind of campaign she ran. That's debatable, right? Mm-hmm. It matters nothing about who came out to vote for her, who didn't, who voted third party, who didn't. You had a woman who got up there for 12 months, told the American people in every single time she was on TV interviewed that she didn't pass classified information, she didn't do this, she didn't do that, she didn't do this. Mm-hmm. The director of the FBI comes out and refutes every single thing that she had claimed wasn't true. Mm-hmm. So now you have somebody who's a liar. That confirmed all of the bad things that everybody suspected about her. They confirmed it. And then it became, and because it wasn't about the issues, it was about personality, you had a guy who, whether you think he's a good man or not, basically you knew where he stood. You may not agree with him, but you knew where he stood. This is the same thing that Bush said. This is the same thing that Obama said. You may not agree with me, but you know where I stand. And with her, it took her 3 speechwriters to tell her why she was running for president. That is the bottom line difference in the entire election. It has nothing to do with anything else. And I will tell you this. This is the thing that the media will never tell anybody. But it's been true since 1980. They have been keeping records of favorability and negatives on every single candidate that has run since 1980. And the candidate that always has the higher negative loses to the person who has a less higher negative. And Hillary Clinton was seen as a less trustworthy candidate between her and Donald Trump.
Right.
And that's why she lost.
Right. Interesting.
But,
well, this is very good information because, I mean, you know, you're just looking at the documents in the file and you're reporting on what you see there. As you said, not necessarily a smoking gun, but I think as more and more people with your kind of expertise and other kinds of expertise go through, we start to develop this preponderance of evidence that indicates all these things that are just so unlikely to have just randomly occurred or naturally occurred. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the bigger picture for me is that it's not about Hillary Clinton. And I know you guys, you know, there's a lot of people that want to take her down, but she's just a servant to this class. This is not, you know, it's kind of like if you just look at what she does, what does she do? She's not out in front of any issue. She's always, once it's already become the narrative, she adopts it, right? Okay, so that's her MO on everything. This is the system that she lives in that was started probably back in 1988, but definitely came about after 2000 with the Help America Vote Act, which was a total disaster, which privatized elections permanently and made it completely corporatized at that point when companies can own voting machines and claim basically not state secrets, but proprietary information that I can't show you my source code. I mean, come on. These are Diebold. This is Diebold, the same people that can give you a paper receipt when you take money out of the ATM. So the idea is this. If you're going to get people looking at all of this data, and I can do it in little bites because I have a job and I can't spend all day on it, but you don't need, let me just say, you don't need statisticians. Statisticians is a measurement of things. What you need is data analysis, kind of like what a little bit of what I'm doing and communicating with you. They need to put it all out on paper. And what they're going to need to do, and this is the hard part, if you guys really want to go hardcore at electoral reform, I think you need to get Robert David Steele involved. I know Robert David Steele wants to talk about himself and wants to talk about his mission and everything, and I think that's important. But if you guys can have an offline conversation with him or Cynthia McKinney, because what the public will not, like once you put a chart out there with some numbers, and you're going to lose people. You're going to lose 50% of the people.
I know.
So it's got to be like Now This News, infographic with moving pictures, and to build the case to say why we need to get away from this, and we need to adopt the Electoral Reform Act of 2017. Now, I know that's not your primary cause. You guys are on a mission to find and sift through, find out. You found who the killer was. You pretty much know all the players involved. Now the next step is to where do we go from here? And my only advice, if I'm to give any at this point, is to say I think what would be awesome would be you all to do a press release. Very simple press release of what you have found and uncovered. Publish that. Get it out there. Get it out to the Observer. Get it out to Caitlin Johnston. All of these progressive independent people that they could publish it and write their own articles from it. The second thing I would do is I would do exactly like you guys have been doing, the streaming. Yeah. But I would do it through I would do a national call-in number, and it needs to be on a secure line because there's going to be plenty of people who are going to try to take that line down. So we're going to have to figure
it's so difficult to do. I mean, we've got no funding, and it's just me and George in an apartment with some cell phones.
But see, here's the thing.
I agree with you, but I'm overwhelmed after just 1 week of doing this and trying to figure out.
I can only imagine, because you gotta prioritize what's most important, right? Because you're basically doing the investigative journalism part, right? Right. You're not the PR spokesperson. You're having to wear like 10 different hats. It's an awesome startup. Yeah. But I'm telling you, like, I think that this thing, and not just for this issue, but CNN is going to go down in flames, and they already have started to. Today it was found out that they were staging you saw that, and today they went on and the FBI, they called Julian Assange a pedophile again. I mean, this is they're just going back to the old shit which is basically they'll lie and then they'll have to retract, but the lie gets out there first and it will spread faster than the retraction. Right. So I think there are other assets that I will try to do my best to bring to you that are credible. I won't bring you just anybody who's wanting to, it's just people that have a public online reputation and people that you can vet yourself. But here's what I would do. Among anything else, I think you all should host a call with a call-in number that you give out, not online. You give it to specific journalists, and you basically host an hour-long live streaming press conference call with the journalists who want to dial in and let them write their stories, because it's going to be the public and the journos, and it's going to give the journos the opportunity to ask questions that the community doesn't ask or can't ask, or it gets lost in the comments, or it gets lost on social media, because it's overwhelming, I'm sure, with the text messages, the messages, the emails. It's crazy. My phone is basically under denial of service. Yeah. Constant. The battery lasts for like an hour. Yeah. But I think that will break this out for you all. I think it'll break it out much bigger. It won't be like it's not going to be like the one that vanquishes all the foes, but it's going to be, you got to get your narrative out there. Yeah. Because you already have the credibility and the source metadata, which is in the videos and the articles that are being written. But the bigger thing is you need a pool of journalists, credible journalists who are going to want to write stories about this and ask you specific questions. And it's going to be, I think it's going to be a much bigger deal going forward, because what you all are building, in my view, is a model for new journalism, open source intelligence, and new methods of journalism that other people are starting to pick up on. And you got basically, the next 4 years to build this if you want to, or hand it off to somebody. It doesn't have to. That's what we're working to do. I mean, you're absolutely correct. That's what we're working to do. And I mean, the problem is we want it to be, we've got people saying like, oh, you should collect money, but it's, then, I mean, I think we just might have to just start doing that. But we don't want people to think we're doing it to make money, and we're not doing it to make money. We're doing it to get to the truth and to, eschew all the bullshit from CNN that you're describing and all the other corporate-owned, advertiser-driven news media outlets.
But at the same time, I mean, our reach is so small right now that there's a danger that if we start asking for money, it could, sort of make us appear, it might not be. It's a complicated issue for us to work through right now. And as I said, there's just two of us, so adding more people is complicated. It's a very, very challenging thing. And the thing is, like, I'm glad that, I had to make this time to call you, and I'm glad that you weren't, too upset that I have taken this long to get back to you, because it's just been nearly impossible. And I needed to hear this kind of information, because, see, I know that because Kim.com and his minions of, shitty hackers are discrediting me basically 24/7 online, I don't think they would be doing that if there's nothing in this file. They would just sort of say, like, oh, well, turns out to be nothing, and move on to their next whatever.
Well, I would say that I don't know their intentions, but I will tell you, I think what Kim is doing, and I'm sure you guys I'm not the first one to say this, but he's got these files and this evidence as leverage for whatever deal he wants to strike.
Right.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he is. And, that's his right. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. But to mock you all for having put in the work, or to, let me say this, to put his position above finding the truth for his own self-gain really does give me pause, because I go, okay, I understand you have a right to do that, but don't disparage other people's efforts who are putting in the time, the energy, and the effort. And even if they're wrong, I mean, I'm just saying, like, just play devil's advocate. Even if you're wrong, don't be an asshole. There's no need to do that. You're muddying the waters only to elevate yourself, so that when the truth does come out, you want to co-opt it in some way that's beneficial to you. I don't believe in that. I think that the truth is the truth, no matter where it leads. It's not exclusive to the left or the right.
Right.
These are what the facts are, and we need to ask questions. And as long as we raise the bar on the facts and keep asking the questions, we all benefit from this.
Yeah.
But taking sides, attacking somebody, I mean, I watched what DeFango did on some of his videos, and I'm like, okay, I get it, because he's trying. But see, he has. The thing is, DeFango doesn't have any reputation to protect, in my view, right?
Well, he's part of this hacker community that we're just sort of learning about, and it's unclear to me what his role is. I do believe he's a surrogate of Kim, that he attempted to infiltrate our organization to probably, he was talking about helping us with VPNs and things like that, and I presume that he wanted to gain our trust to the extent that we would give him control of certain things that he could then sabotage. So now he's trying his best to sabotage us online by doing live streams and, making ridiculous videos, but he's really acting very immature. And now they're threatening to dox me on 4chan and release information that I'm Mossad and reporting to Sydney, someone or something like that. And
oh my God!
Things that I know aren't true, but you put that shit out on the internet, and who the hell knows what's going to happen. And his channel is fomenting hate, calling me and George Jews, and all kinds of things. And it's really sad that that's what's going on. And again, I think it's just further evidence that what we have come upon is not. I mean, here's what it is to me, right? We got this directory structure with files in it from Trish. I instructed Trish as to how to encode it into a zip archive. Now, the hacker community may malign me that I'm 45 and have been using computers since most of their fathers were pissing in their pants. But I'm not a hacker. I am a digital production expert, and that's where my primary expertise lies. But I don't need to be a hacker or even a computer user at all to know when I'm listening to bullshit. And basically, when we got this file and released it on our live stream, George's whole attitude is that we're doing everything on live stream because if we keep it secret, like the WikiLeaks network of Seth Rich and possibly Eric Braverman and Sean Lucas and whoever else might have been involved there was a strong motivation for the opponents of those guys to murder them before their information comes out or before what they know.
That's exactly right.
And by doing it publicly, we're flipping the script and kind of, if they were to do anything to us now, it would just, of course,
it would raise the ire of so many people.
Well, not only the ire, it would raise the profile of the crime to the extent that it would continue to deteriorate their power structure and put them under heavier scrutiny, particularly while, Donald Trump is trying to fight the deep state and all these ridiculous notions of Russia hacking. So, listen, I appreciate
I know you
tremendously, and I definitely, you will become a resource for us. And let me just think here. Your code name is Rice or Roni from now on, and I really appreciate you reaching out to us, and I'll speak to you soon.
All right, sounds good. Is this your cell, by the way?
This is.
Okay, I will not call you in any way, unless I'll
call me with anything important. I really appreciate
only if it's
your
important. I won't.
Yes.
I won't abuse that privilege. And if there's any additional information I come up with, insofar as what I find more in these files that are clues for you all, I'll put. Actually, what I'm going to do is I will put some of what we talked about, especially the Bellwether part, in an email to you later. I have some other things I need to tend to. I know you got a lot on your plate, but anything I can do to support you guys, I absolutely will. But I will. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a list together of independent media that I believe would be receptive to the idea of doing a call with you all. I think that, and let me say why I want to stress this, because I think that if you do this with them, it's going to bring a lot more support to you. You've done the legwork. You're not asking for money. You got the story, and now you're going to release it. I think that will nullify that argument so that you're not striking out on your own to say, hey.
Here's basically what happened. We got this directory structure from Trish. We encoded it into a zip file. I understand that's not the newest file, but whatever. We uploaded it. It was a 2.25 gigabyte folder structure that compressed down to 1.1 gigabytes as a zip. And what happened then was people started really getting all over what we were doing. And then that's when we got in touch with these guys like, the surrogates of Kim. Kim.com came onto our, 2 weeks ago I had 96 followers on YouTube, and it really just grew tremendously. And the interesting thing is, even using 7Z, the file that I have encodes to 796.5 megabytes. So I'm just, getting everything ready to destroy the narrative that these hacker assholes are trying to put across. We put up a zip file. They said, give it to us. We'll put it on mega upload so everybody can get it. And about a day later, we were getting a ton of emails from people saying, hey, this is old, this is nonsense. And it took a little while to figure out what was going on. They put up a different file to try to convince people and get them to check out another file. So let me run. I'm going to do a live stream right now and start dealing with your information and other information and tell people to not be distracted by bullshit and focus on the real deal. I appreciate you very much. Mr. Roni, I'll speak to you soon, my friend. Take care. Be well. Bye-bye.
Peace, brother. Bye-bye.